They said it could turn lead into gold. But what if I told you the real treasure was never material? What if the true power of the Philosopher's Stone isn't about wealth, but about transcendence? Throughout the ages, kings have killed, empires have fallen, and secret orders have risen, all in pursuit of a myth, the Philosopher's Stone. To the untrained eye, it's a relic of Alchemy, an ancient device believed to transmute base metals into precious ones, a tool of greedy men chasing immortality, gold, and glory. But here's the forgotten truth. The Philosopher's Stone is not an object, it's a symbol. A riddle wrapped in code, passed from mystic to mystic, hidden in plain sight. It has appeared under many names: the elixir of life, the red tincture, the hidden seed of light. And yet, across continents and centuries, from the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus to the secret manuscripts of the Rosicrucians, this one truth remains. The stone is not about changing matter. It's about changing you. In this video, we'll journey far beyond the cliches and dive into the esoteric essence of the Philosopher's Stone. You'll discover why ancient adepts encoded its meaning in symbols and riddles, how the stone relates to spiritual alchemy and the awakening of true consciousness, and most importantly, how the quest for the stone might be a blueprint for inner immortality, a path of radical transformation for those brave enough to walk it. So, don't expect the usual tale of medieval potions and laboratory flasks. This isn't about chemistry. It's about soulcraft. Because somewhere between myth and metaphor lies a secret so powerful, it could change not just your mind but your entire being. Now, are you ready to uncover what the alchemists never told you? The earliest whispers of the Philosopher's Stone don't come from Europe but from ancient Egypt, Babylon, and the mystic traditions of the East. In the dusty lines of the emerald tablet, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, we find this cryptic phrase: "That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below." To modern ears, it sounds poetic, but to the ancient initiates, it was an encoded formula describing the unity of spirit and matter. The stone, in this context, wasn't a physical object, but the manifestation of divine balancea, a bridge between worlds. In Egypt, the alchemical arts weren't just about substances, they were sacred sciences passed through the priesthood of Thoth. Metals were symbols. Mercury represented the fluid spirit, sulfur, the fiery soul, salt, the body. Transmuting lead into gold was code for transmuting the lead of ignorance into the gold of enlightenment. By the time these teachings migrated to the Islamic Golden Age, figures like Jabir ibn Hayyan expanded them. Jabir spoke not just of laboratory processes, but of refining the nafs, the lower self, through inner purification. He hinted that the true alchemist worked not in a lab, but in their own heart. Then came Medieval monks, scribbling over ancient scrolls by candlelight, desperate to decode the secrets of transmutation. But few understood that what they held were maps of the soul, not recipes for material gain. In the 14th century, the legendary Nicholas Flamel claimed to have deciphered a mysterious alchemical manuscript. Though later turned into legend, his journey mirrored an internal quest to transformation, not of coins, but of consciousness. The Rosicrucians, an elusive mystical order, called the stone the living light. For them, alchemy was a spiritual discipline, not a proto-science. They spoke of it as the hidden key that unlocks divine potential within the human vessel. But why cloak all this in riddles and metaphors? Why not speak plainly? Because this knowledge wasn't for the masses, not because it was elitist, but because it was dangerous. Imagine telling a tyrant that immortality lies not in power but in surrender, that true gold can only be earned through inner death and rebirth, that the greatest treasure can't be owned, only become. So, the sages hid it. They turned soul maps into chemical diagrams, veiled spiritual truth beneath layers of allegory, and only those with eyes to see, those who had begun their own process of inner refinement, could begin to decode the truth. What we call the Philosopher's Stone, then, is not a secret to be possessed. It's a process to be lived. A spiritual evolution described in the language of symbols. Calcination, dissolution, coagulation. Not of metals, but of you. And now, we begin to open the gate. In the next section, we'll decode these stages of alchemy not as physical procedures, but as mystical rites of passage that mirror your own inner evolution. Imagine your soul as raw, unshaped lead-ends, heavy, reactive to the world's chaos. Now imagine a process so ancient, so precise, that it could refine this lead into radiant gold. That's the heart of the alchemical journey. But we're not speaking of smelting furnaces. We're speaking of inner alchemy, transmutation of self. True alchemy is structured in stages, not steps on a ladder, but spirals in a sacred dance, and every initiate, from ancient Hermetists to the modern seeker, must pass through them. Let's begin with the first. 1. Calcination, the burning away of the false self. This is the sacred fire. It's the moment life crumbles. An ego shattered by loss, humiliation, or awakening. The alchemists described it as reducing matter to ash, but spiritually, it's about confronting your illusions, the stories, roles, and masks you've clung to. Here, the false self is burned, exposing the raw material beneath. In modern terms, it's the dark night of the soul. It hurts, it dissolves. But it's necessary. 2. Dissolution, the melting of identity. Now the ashes fall into water. The rigid identity melts. Boundaries dissolve. The seeker becomes fluid, uncertain, but open. In this stage, your beliefs, ideologies, even your sense of self begin to disintegrate. You no longer know who you are, and that's the point. From the ego's perspective, this feels like chaos. But from the soul's perspective, it's liberation. This is the moment you stop trying to fix yourself and start observing what was never broken, only buried. 3. Separation, the sorting of truth and illusion. Here, amidst the ruins, comes clarity. The gold particles, your authentic values, desires, truths begin to rise to the surface. This is not rebuilding the ego, it's separating what is yours from what was given to you. Cultural conditioning, inherited beliefs, trauma responses. The ancients called this the sorting of the subtle from the gross. You begin to see, this is who I really am. And yet the journey is far from over. At every stage, the Philosopher's Stone isn't something you're chasing, it's something you're becoming. The stone is symbolic of the fully integrated human being, one who has passed through death and rebirth within, who has remembered their divine essence hidden beneath flesh, fear, and forgetfulness. Just like real gold resists rust, decay, and tarnish, the inner gold, your awakened consciousness, becomes unshakable, pure, permanent. But here's the paradox. The more you seek the stone as an object, the further you drift from it. Because the stone cannot be found, only realized. You've survived the fire. You've melted into the unknown. You've separated the gold from the dross. Now begins the sacred reconstruction. 4. Conjunction, the union of opposites. This is the marriage of soul and spirit, light and shadow, masculine and feminine. In alchemical art, it's depicted as the sacred wedding, Sol and Luna in eternal embrace. But this is not romance. It's integration. Here, the seeker learns to live in paradox. You are both divine and human, powerful and vulnerable, eternal and impermanent. The conscious mind and the unconscious no longer battle, they collaborate. This is the dawn of inner harmony, the first glimmer of the stone. But something new must now emerge. 5. Fermentation, the death of the old, the birth of the sacred. Fermentation is the rotting of the old matter and the rise of something alive. In mythology, this is the resurrection, the phoenix rising from the ashes. The seeker who has died to their ego begins to awaken as something more. This stage is often marked by visions, insights, mystical dreams, or an overwhelming sense of purpose. Something holy begins to stir in the depths. The alchemists called it the divine spark. It's here that the stone begins to form, not as matter, but as awareness. But the work is not done. 6. Distillation, the refinement of consciousness. Now comes the long, meticulous purification. Just as crude alcohol is distilled into fine spirit, your awakened consciousness is tested, again and again. Ego will attempt to return. Old patterns will resurface. But now, you're not reactive. You observe. You learn. You distill. This is the stage of spiritual maturity. The seeker becomes the alchemist. Disciplined, clear, silent in power. This stage is often overlooked in modern spiritual awakenings, which chase epiphanies but neglect refinement. But to ancient adepts, this was essential. Without distillation, the stone remains impure. 7. Coagulation, the birth of the Philosopher's Stone. Then, finally, after all the fires, waters, and dissolution, something crystallizes. Not a stone in your hand, but a presence in your soul. You walk differently. You speak with stillness. You become a living paradox, humble, yet unshakably radiant. This is coagulation. The moment spirit and matter are one. Heaven and earth meet within you. The alchemists believed that once this was achieved, the outer world would respond. Not because of magic tricks or material power, but because the stone radiates reality itself. It doesn't change lead into gold. It reveals the gold that was always there, waiting beneath the illusion. And so, the Philosopher's Stone isn't a destination. It's a becoming, a silent revolution of the self. In myths, this final stage was guarded by dragons, hidden in mountains, or buried beneath labyrinths. But that was always allegory. The true path to the stone is walked inward, through fire, water, air, and earth, through death and rebirth. And those who complete the journey never seek again. So, how do you begin this sacred work? When you have no ancient scrolls, no secret laboratory, and no alchemical mentor cloaked in robes? Here's the truth. You don't need them. Because the laboratory is your life. And the fire, it's already burning. The alchemists weren't just mystics, they were observers of patterns, both in nature and in consciousness. They believed transformation didn't happen by chance, but by will, awareness, and inner discipline. So let's turn this wisdom into practice. Calcination, face what you fear to lose. This first stage starts with brutal honesty. Ask yourself, what am I still clinging to that no longer serves me? What identities do I defend out of fear? You can start this with journaling. Write down what defines you, then ask, is this really me? Burn the page, literally or symbolically. Let that act be a ritual, a small death, an offering to the fire. Dissolution, embrace uncertainty. Do something that shakes your sense of self. Travel somewhere unfamiliar, sit in silence for hours. Question every belief you've inherited, especially the ones you've never doubted. This stage isn't about having answers. It's about becoming the question. Practice meditation that focuses on not knowing. Allow thoughts to arise and pass without grasping for control. Separation, choose what's truly yours. Now that the waters have stirred, sift through what remains. Identify the truths that resonate deep within, not just on the surface. Create rituals that honor your core values, whether through daily affirmations, ancestral prayers, or even simple acts of devotion, like lighting a candle with intent. Start saying no to what is not aligned. This is your sacred sorting. Conjunction, fermentation, distillation, live the integration. These middle stages take time, reflection, and repetition. They are lived more than performed. Practice integration through shadow work, examining the parts of you you've denied. Creative expression, paint, write, move, sing, let your soul speak. Spiritual fasting or solitude, not to escape, but to listen more clearly. Notice synchronicities. Journal your dreams. Trust your intuitive nudges, they're your inner Mercury guiding you toward conjunction. Distillation comes when you refine what you've learned. Let go of spiritual ego. Return to stillness. Coagulation, walk as the stone. You'll know this phase not by fireworks, but by peace. You'll feel less reactive, more rooted, able to move through chaos without being consumed by it. To embody the stone means you begin to radiate that wholeness, quietly transforming others just by existing authentically. So what can you do daily? Start your morning by declaring, I am the vessel of transformation. Close your day by asking, where did I resist and where did I alchemize? This is not about perfection. It's about presence. The Philosopher's Stone is forged slowly through pain, joy, silence, and self-remembering. And when doubt arises, remember this. You are not creating the stone. You are revealing what was hidden beneath the dust of forgetting. The Philosopher's Stone has always been with us. Not in vaults, not in ancient tombs, but within, buried under layers of identity, fear, and forgetfulness. And now, you've glimpsed its outline. It's not a myth. It's a metaphor for your most sacred potential. The alchemists didn't leave behind formulas for fame or gold. They left behind maps for awakening hidden in plain sight. Through fire, water, air, and earth. Through the death of what you thought you were, and the quiet rising of what you've always been. The stone is not the reward at the end. It is what you become in the process. So here's the real secret. Every heartbreak you've endured, every identity you've had to shed, every moment you've sat in silence and chose presence over panic, you were already walking the alchemical path. You don't need to be initiated into a secret society. Life itself is your initiation. And now, a question only you can answer. What part of you is ready to be transmuted? What lead are you still holding that longs to become gold? Write it in the comments. Not just for yourself, but for others on this path. Because your journey could be the spark for someone else's fire. And if this message stirred something inside you, something old, something forgotten, let it live. Rewatch this when you feel lost. Share it with those who still think the stone is made of matter. Because maybe, just maybe, you're already holding it. Comment below. Subscribe for deeper truths. Begin the work. The real gold was never out there. It's you when you remember.